Actually, needs to check, but I think we're on them. Start there.
Thank you very much and welcome everybody. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners upon the lands of which we're all meeting today, the Dja Dja Wurrung, and acknowledge their ongoing connection and their deep commitment to the lands and waters upon the beautiful lands of where we all reside in the Shire of Hepburn. I'd like to acknowledge elders past and present, and of course acknowledge any Indigenous people here today. So thank you and welcome everybody. I'd like to formally now open the meeting, our meeting on the 23rd of March 2026. Councillor Hockey, would you like to relay the statement of commitment, please?
Certainly, Mayor. We, the councillors of Hepburn Shire, declare that we will undertake on every occasion to carry out our duties in the best interests of the community, and that our conduct shall maintain the standards of the Code of Good Government, so that we may faithfully represent and uphold the trust placed in this council by the people of Hepburn Shire.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Councillor Hockey. Item number 3, do we have any apologies?
Through you, Mayor, Mr. Bruce Lucas, the Director of Infrastructure and Delivery, is in here tonight.
Fantastic. Thank you.
We do have Councillor Hood and Brooke Holmes on.
Fantastic, and acknowledge we have all councillors here this evening and welcome officers. Councillor, are there any conflicts of interest?
No.
Officers? Okay, thank you. Item number 5, confirmation of minutes. I'd like to put forward that we acknowledge the minutes of the meeting on the 27th of February. It's a true and accurate reflection of the minutes. Councillors, do we have someone like to put that motion forward?
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Cornish, seconded.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Hockey, all those in favour?
Yes.
Passed unanimously.
Thank you, councillors. Item number 6, public participation time. So 6.1 petitions, I believe we have none this time. That's correct. 6.2, request to address council. I believe we have one. Is it Nicola Thomas? Are you here tonight? You are. There you are. I'd like to invite you up to address council, noting that you have 3 minutes. Looking forward to hearing from you.
Good evening, Mayor and councillors. My name is Nicola Thomas. Thank you for letting me speak tonight about something that really matters to me and a lot of families in our community, saving the Callanbean Park toddler pool. What's this really about? I remember the first time I took my little brother to the toddler pool. He was scared of the lake. It's deep, dark, and way too much for a 3-year-old. But at the toddler pool, he was laughing, splashing, and actually having fun. That's what this pool means to families like mine. Here's what doesn't make sense to me. Back in 2022, Council approved spending between $60,000 and $80,000 on this pool through the aquatic strategy. They planned $50,000 to $60,000 to fix all problems experts found, plus another $50,000 to $10,000 to $20,000 to look into other water play options. But at the same time, they were already planning its closure after the 2023 summer. Why would you spend that much money on something you're planning to shut down? It's like fixing up an old bike when you're planning to throw it away next week. It just doesn't make sense. Even if they didn't spend all of it, that money was set aside for this pool. I know some people think the Creswick Splash Park solves the problem, but I'm 11. Even I can see it doesn't. Splash Park only benefits really young toddlers and it's actually kind of dangerous. There's no fence between it, the highway or the busy service road. There's barely any shade and there are no facilities such as toilets, change room or barbecues. Parents must cross the busy highway that doesn't even have a safe crossing point with all their children just to use a bathroom. These problems can be fixed. Yes, the pool has issues, the water quality needs work, the filter system is 30 years old, there are leaks, and it doesn't meet current safety standards. But guess what? That's exactly what the $50,000 to $60,000 was supposed to fix. I'm not a pool expert, but I've been thinking, when they're repairing the cracks anyway, couldn't they raise the level of tiles of concrete to meet the Royal Life Saving Society guidelines? These aren't impossible problems. They just need the funding that was already promised. What is council planning to do? Are you going to keep your promise and spend the money you set aside to fix the pool? If you do this, you'll keep your word from 2022, make sure ratepaying money actually benefits the community and gives families back something we really need. You abandoned this pool after saying you'd invest in it. That's not just wasting money. It's breaking trust with families who are counting on you. This pool isn't just concrete and water. It's where toddlers learn to not be afraid of water. It's where families spend summer afternoons together. It's where my little brother learned to put his face under the water for the first time. Council already knew this pool was important. That's why they are willing to spend up to $80,000 on it. Don't back out now. Every kid in our community deserves a safe place to learn to swim and have fun in the water. Thank you for listening.
Wow.
Ms. Thomas, thank you so much for your clearly well researched and impassioned
So impressive.
speech. And I'm looking forward to when you're going to sit in this chair one day. So thank you very much for taking the time to address council. Absolutely take that on board. Thank you. Okay, we'll now move on to item 6.3. We have a public question. So Mr. Thompson, Councillor Cornish, thank you very much. Mr. Thomas.
Thank you. We've got 6 public questions for tonight. I'll read out for those not in attendance, and Councillor Cornish will read the answer. So questions 1 and 2 are from Lorraine Duval. I don't think Lorraine is here, so I'll read them. Question 1. At the 23rd of September 2025 council meeting, the motion was carried for St George's Lake Road, Creswick, to be sealed as part of stage 1 of the draft traffic management plan. Bruce Lucas stated that the detailed design works would start immediately and construction would likely commence in March, April of 2026. Upon asking council 2 weeks ago if the tender for construction had been let, I was advised that it had not. My question is, why after 6 months are we still waiting for tenders to be let?
Thank you for the question. Following adoption of the traffic management plan, officers commenced the required steps to design, procure and deliver the approved works. This includes engaging a designer to prepare a functional layout plan, undertaking consultation and progressing the detailed design and tender documentation. Consultation on the FLP has now been completed and detailed design is in progress, with completion and release of the tender expected during April. These steps are necessary to ensure we continue the collaboration and the project is appropriately scoped. Compliant and deliverable. However, we acknowledge the initial forecast for completing them was, in hindsight, too ambitious.
Question 2 is a follow-up also from Lorraine. As it is unlikely that the construction for the sealing of St George's Lake Road will commence as advised in March, April, can council please give the residents some indication of when works to seal the road will commence?
The tender is anticipated to be released in April and submitted pricing will determine the approval pathway, which may include consideration at a council meeting. Final delivery timing will then be influenced by contractor availability and weather conditions. Council will continue to keep the community informed via the group email as it has done since mid-2025.
Questions 3 and 4 are from Heather Mutimer.
Councillors, my questions relate to the Albert Street Daylesford survey. At the February council meeting, I asked a question in relation to the survey, read the proposed changes to Albert Street Daylesford. In this survey, a series of options were presented for the community to choose from. In the reply to my question at the meeting, I was advised, and I quote, "Council's Participate Hepburn page is currently being updated to include a summary of the survey outcomes. We encourage you to monitor the page for updates or reach out to council officers directly if you would like to discuss the findings in more detail." Since the last meeting, I have been monitoring the Participate Hepburn page, but I seem to be unable to find any update with the survey outcomes. It's now been over 6 months since the survey and a month since I was provided with the above advice. As council has nominated the Albert Street Works project as a priority project for seeking funding, then it is clear that council has chosen one of the options or something different. And it seems that this decision has either been made in a closed meeting or via delegation. My questions are as follows. Which option has council chosen to proceed with to enable any funding application? And 2, When will the results of the survey be finally published? Thank you.
Thank you. Following community engagement, the option supported by council was option 4, and that is closure to through traffic. This option received significant support from the community and involves closing off the intersection at Albert Street and the Midland Highway to create a much improved green space for the community. This option provides an enhanced green space within the township, improved community safety outcomes, improved accessibility to Raglan Street and trading area. It was preferred option of the Department of Transport and Planning, or the DTP, which aligns with council's strategic goals detailed in future Hepburn. And in response to your second question, council's Participate Hepburn page was finalised and updated earlier today.
That's convenient today.
Yeah. To include a summary of the engagement results and overview of the scope of works applied for through the federal government's Black Spot program.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions 5 and 6 are from David Smith. David. Questions?
Evening, Mayor and Councillor. Mr. Smith. Very big question. Just the amount of publicity the council is receiving is concerning me. And regarding the standing aside or standing down of Councillor Henderson, and I see the CEO is here in life. I thought he was, media said he was stood down, but he's here. My question is Councillor Henderson on pay whilst he is stood down? If so, how much? What's the story? The Local Government Act tells us that. I haven't got a copy.
Following the service of alleged charges initiated by a private individual, Mr. Don Henderson was automatically stood down as required by the Local Government Act 2020. As mandated under the Act, Mr. Henderson is not eligible for a councillor allowance while stood down. The Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Bradley Thomas, was also served with alleged charges initiated by a private individual. However, the same Local Government Act 2020 requirements do not apply to Mr. Thomas. Mr. Thomas is not required to stand down and will continue to operate in his role. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Smith.
Mr. Mayor, can I put a question to you
No,
or to Mr. Thomas?
no. I won't allow it.
You won't allow it.
We'll move on. Okay.
Sorry, through you, Nick, if I can just, that is the end of public questions. Can I also note, and you did thank Nicola for her presentation, and just to close that out
That was my question.
for councillors and for Nicola, and we will write to you in the next couple of days as well. Councillors are working through their aquatic strategy, and we'd expect that to be made public before the 30th of June of this year. So we definitely will have that back, but we'll formally write to you and thank you for your presentation and feedback directly around the future of Calabank Park as part of that decision when it comes to council later this financial year.
Thank you very much. All right. Thank you all, and thank you, community. We'll now move to item number 7, the council officer reports. So we'll move to 7.1, the integrated transport strategy. Councillor Hockey, introduce, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, a topic of great interest to all, especially as pertains to footpaths. This integrated transport strategy 26 to 2050. Hepburn ITS, as it's known, provides a principles-based decision-making framework to guide council decisions on transport infrastructure investment, advocacy and transport planning over the next 25 years. The project commenced in 2019, the local benchmarking study. That documents in community input. A background discussion paper was published for input in 2023. That feedback was integrated into the 2025 draft Hepburn ITS. Feedback to that is addressed in the strategy as recommended in this report. The Hepburn ITS is a significant opportunity to lock in agreed principles to be fulfilled with practical actions. Officers recommend the ITS.
Thank you very much. And thank you, officers, for all the work that's gone into this strategy that's been put forward. Councillors, we do have a recommendation in front of us. Would any councillor like to put something forward to, so we're going to open up for discussion of the motion? Councillors?
I'm happy to put the motion forward.
Thank you,
the officer's
Councillor.
recommendation with some minor changes, if you want to get that up on the screen.
Yep, that'd be great. Thank you. If we can just make it clear for everyone what we're doing. Two seconds was the whispered word.
I believe it's a motion that you'll put, councillor.
Councillor Drowley, is that reflective? Moment to review.
Yeah, that's right. So it's the office recommendation with a strengthening at 0.5. Want me to read the whole thing out?
We can maybe read it. 5.
So 5 has an addition. It resolves to prepare an implementation plan setting out how the strategy's actions will integrate into council's processes and work programs for council to consider before the end of September 2026.
Thank you. So who would like to second that motion?
And sorry, there's a 0.6, which is authorise the Chief Executive Officer to make minor administrative amendments to the strategy if required, but does not amend the intent of the strategy.
Okay, thank you. Councillor, who would like to second that motion? Have a second?
Yes, I'm happy to.
Thank you, Councillor Hockey. So we'll call the motion on the floor. So councillors will obviously take the paper as read. Do we have any questions we would like to ask, or any points of clarification we'd like to put to officers?
Yeah, I've got a question.
Councillor Drowley.
Given the breadth and depth of this document and just how far-reaching some of the action points are and how important they are, I'm just wondering what's the difference between our ability to advocate and to implement this document and what are some of the strategies that we might see to actually get this into action?
Thank you, Mayor, through you. The strategy, Councillor Drowley, a very strong advocacy component to it. And the reason for that is many transport matters and services are directly controlled by the state government and other public agencies. So advocacy is a very strong theme throughout this strategy. On par with the advocacy theme is also the fact that this strategy will inform future investment and future infrastructure decisions directly controlled by council. So that forms the breadth of this strategy. Advocacy consists of not only advocacy for improved service provision by other agencies in the state government, but also for potential funding that might assist council in implementing certain aspects of this strategy. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much, Torres. Any follow-up questions, Councillor Drowley?
I'm interested in some of the impacts that perhaps, if we're looking at administrative changes, one is sort of around the impact of tourism and the fact that we have a lot of transport coming from outside and the opportunity to perhaps look at the emissions burden of that, which is perhaps not captured so much in this document, and what some of our strategies might be around encouraging people to use other modes of transport to come to our shire and the capacity for them to do that at this point.
Through you, Mayor. there are a number of ways to arrive at the Shire, but in terms of sustainable transport and public transport, they are quite limited offerings. So that will form part of our advocacy provision. Sustainability, environmental sustainability is a very strong theme in this strategy. And as Councillor Kiley pointed out, that responsibility can lie with our local community, our local businesses, but also visitors to the Shire. So much work can be done in terms of informing our potential visitors of the various more sustainable ways to come to the Shire. But once within the Shire, this strategy will provide a basis for future sort of accessibility and sustainable sort of transport options for our community.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Dry. Any other questions?
I do, Liz.
Thank you.
Through you, Mayor. Mr. Thomas, I note that the draft strategy that's before us does talk about better access to public transport and improves accessibility for people. And the group specifically mentioned women who have different transport different use needs, people with a disability, older people, younger people, and women. And I note that the survey results on the draft strategy from 2025 show that there were 60% of the respondents were women, which is higher than the average, the percentage of participants in the Shire, and that 3% were male, and that 18% of the respondents were people living with a disability, which is also higher than the overall state Shire average. But we haven't analysed their feedback according to those categories. So it's good that they're represented, and I presume that they're overrepresented means that indeed public transport and other transport options are significant. Is there a reason that we don't analyse their responses according to the categories? Because it would seem to me that it's likely that, given the importance to those groups, that there may be differences in how they respond to the strategy.
Through you, Mayor. Councillor Hewitt, thank you for your question. This strategy forms the high-level sort of vision for transport and movement within the Shire, but it also forms the foundation for future policies that might be formed that support this strategy. So future policies can certainly seek to address accessibility of our diverse community, that enable their access to public transport and better movement across the Shire. So it's a further piece of work beyond this strategy once it's adopted.
Thank you.
Yeah, Councillor Coysh.
What I see lacking in a lot of our initiatives is prioritisation. So I do understand that now with the expansion of dot point 5 that priorities may be identified in the implementation stage, but I'd like to see some priorities. Still very well, I think, having strategies, and this is a huge piece of work, but priorities need to be identified especially according to what the community are telling us they want and need. So, but it needs to be a lot clearer. So I'm very happy with that expansion of dot point 5 because I believe that we have an opportunity to prioritise certain areas. And also this is a good reference document, correct me if I'm wrong, for future budget cycles as well. So maybe my question here is, will priorities be a lot clearer? Will we as a council identify areas that community have told us they want, or need?
Through the Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Cornish. The amended motion requires an implementation plan to be produced within the next 6 months and put to council for endorsement. And the councillor group will have an opportunity to input in the recommended priorities by officers. You'll note that the strategy has several actions in it, and it's the sort of the next body of work for officers to identify what can be achievable in the short and medium term and put forward an implementation plan that prioritises those relative actions.
Thank you. Councillors, any other questions or anyone like to speak for or against?
I'll disagree.
Councillor Hockey.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm happy to speak to it. Yeah.
So did you have a question?
Yeah, I was just going to comment on the scale of the document and the ambition there, but observe too that it is necessarily a matter for us. The state is not going to do this work for us, although they may be the funder. It's an interesting example of the expectation put on local government without necessarily backing it in with the financial support for the planning and even the advocacy work. So it's a really interesting document at that coalface between the state and us. It's a general comment there.
Great, thank you very much. Councillor, you'd like to speak for the motion?
Yeah, sure. Look, I just want to begin by thanking the officers who've worked on this strategy over a number of years, and some have come and gone in between, and but also the many community members, stakeholders and agencies who contributed through this consultation back to 2019. So it's been a really long and important process for our communities, and it's this document reflects a lot of listening, a lot of testing ideas and refining them over that time, and I really appreciate the work and the depth of this document. It's important to acknowledge the context also that how we're considering this tonight, particularly around the fuel price volatility that we're seeing and the increasing uncertainty in the global energy supply. As we can see, it's directly affecting household budgets and a sudden increase in costs for getting to work, to school, deliveries for local businesses, and pressures on people who have no real alternative but to drive long distances in rural communities. At the same time, Hepburn Shire continues to experience strong visitor demand, an ageing population and increasing expectations around accessibility, safety and climate responsibility. So this integrated transport strategy is both timely and necessary in that context. I really think there's a lot of strengths in this document. It's a recognition that transport's not just about moving vehicles, it's about connecting people with their everyday needs safely, affordably and reliably, and addresses the alarming statistic that transport accounts for over a third of our carbon emissions bursts in this shire. And to that end, the strategy is deliberately integrated. It looks to transport as a system rather than individual modes. It addresses walking and wheeling, public transport, private vehicles, freight, recreational travel and visitor movement, recognising that people move around the shire in different ways for different reasons. And I'll just highlight the 6 guiding principles. So there's people-centred transport as a pillar. It recognises streets and paths as places for people, not just for vehicles. Fairer transport, which focus on access for people who face physical, financial or social barriers to getting around. It highlights greener and healthier transport, which supports reduced emissions over time, improved health outcomes and gradual reductions in car dependencies as alternatives become available. Safer movement in places, ensuring that all users can move safely and confidently across the network. And a connected shire, addressing gaps within and between towns. And also, lastly, a vibrant community, recognising the importance of transport for local businesses, workers and visitors. So, Mayor, I do support this motion, but as a starting point, because it doesn't solve the problems up front. As Councillor Hockey's alluded to, we are a small rural shire with limited resources, and with the amount of work in this document does take us to 2050, so we've got a bit of time to get there, but it will take significant partnership, community partnerships and different levels of state government partnership, but also our own deliberate attempt to implement these actions. And that is a significant tension in this document. is heavy on diagnosis, and we really need to focus on the response. And I look forward to addressing and implementing this strategy with the coming of time.
Thank you very much, Councillor Gerard. Any other councillor like to speak for? Who'd like to speak against?
I'd like to speak for,
For, please, Councillor.
but it's second to go to have.
That's what we can always, I have got the option. Asking who wants to speak for.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm happy to support this integrated transport strategy. I know that it has been a long time in the coming, and the body of the report does commit us to a 5-year review to determine whether it has had some impact on the issues that Councillor Dryling has identified. I note that there are no specific projects and no specific financial commitments in the strategy. I would make the point, though, again, that in asking for community feedback, we don't analyse it by the groups in the community. So while gender and disability are actually represented, we do not know whether their responses to the draft document or the draft strategy are actually the same as the overall collation of results. That's not something that is aligned just to this strategy. It's how we manage all community engagement at the moment, and I see it as a real lack. I am encouraged by the 5-year review, because looking at the benchmarking study in 2019, you can see that in that a number of things have changed. And I was interested that one of the significant factors that were identified by the community at that time were by the nighttime economy, were services to get people home again safely after they'd finished working, and that included women. So were primarily women. So that's an example of how gender does impact. Given that, encouraged by the implementation time in 6 months' time, encouraged by Councillor Cornish's comments about prioritising actions, and encouraged by the 5-year review, and acknowledging, as Councillor Dryling said, work done by officers over several years to get to this, I'm happy to support the motion.
Thank you very much. So, any other councillors? Yep, Councillor.
Just briefly, like I said previously, that expansion of Dock Point 5 has gained my support, because I think there's a bit of tweaking needed, but not so much changing the intent of the document, which is why hopefully it will get endorsed. But I'd like to see some more consultation with community travelling along. It's a big 25-year plan. I think it was first endorsed in 2019. And now the 5 years are up. That's why it's come back here for review. But no, the new one. Can I get clarity on that? I read somewhere that about a 2019.
That's when it started, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. The development of. That's when it started in 2019.
Where the 2019 attachment, it was a benchmarking study.
Oh.
This is a new integrated transport strategy for Shire Council.
Oh, that's okay then. Well, they've sort of tied in together, I think, somehow. That's the point.
Yep.
But I'd like to see some more consultation travelling along in the next so many years. But happy to have another look at the implementation plan in 6 months' time, which is a good move.
Councillors, anyone else? Someone wants to put the motion to the floor? No, we're okay. All right, councillors, well, we have a motion in front of us. All those in favour, raise your hand.
Pass
All
unanimously.
those against, pass unanimously. Thank you, councillors, and look, congratulations, Mr. Torres, to you and your team. This is a significant piece of work and will provide a bit of a guiding foundation stone, I think, as we move forward. And we're looking forward to that, seeing the tangibility of that through the implementation plan. So thank you very much. Okay, 7.2, the probably 2025-2026 progress report. Councillor Hewitt to introduce.
Thank you, Mayor. The report included in the agenda provides an update on the progress against projects and initiatives that were included in the 25-26 budget. It's for the first half period, so effectively being the initiatives in 2025-2026 to deliver on our council plan. The report shows that of the 17 projects listed for 2025-26, 10 are on track for completion by the end of June 2026, 4 have been completed and 3 have the progress delayed. It's worth noting that because this is the first half period, the progress and comments are designed or are for those at the end of the second quarter, the 31st of December. So on many of the projects, further progress is continuing to be made and will be reported on later. There's an officer's recommendation.
Thank you very much. So councillors, thank you for that. Thank you, officers. Councillors, we have a recommendation to note the progress report to also then publish on the website. We have a motion, Councillor Baird, to put forward so we can start with discussions.
Happy to move that.
As noted,
Recommend.
thank you, Councillor Hocking. Would like to second that.
I will move.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hewitt. So I'll open it now up for questions. Councillors, any questions for officers?
Yes, Mayor. I have 3 questions, if I may.
Yep. Please. Thank you, Councillor Wood.
Thanks, Councillor Clark. My first question goes to the all-important town structure plans, which we know the community has a very high level of interest in the development of those. And on the draft plans that we've adopted, particularly in Daylesford and Trentham, they were adopted on the basis that several items in each needed more work. I'm somewhat concerned, and I'm searching for some clarification about the process throughout this year to engage with the community again. There is a phrase in the update for BGT 26.4 that further consultation with the community will be undertaken as needed. Now, my understanding was there would be considerably more consultation on those 2 plans in particular. Can officers give a clearer outline on what sort of consultation will happen from here?
Mr. Torres, through you, Mayor Clark, and thank you, Councillor Hood, for your question. The adopted implementation plan for future Hepburn foreshadows quite significant planning scheme amendments. Planning scheme amendments, councillors, are statutory process to introduce new planning control provisions. An integral part of that process is mandatory and legally required exhibition or consultation, but it has a formal sort of legal aspect to it. And that is a given with our future body of work, Councillor Hood. That will happen and will involve the wider community and several agencies and other stakeholders. As you can read in that comment against BGT 26.4, it references a number of consultations that have occurred to date. Those weren't statutory consultations, but they happened nonetheless. So as part of this implementation program, we will be absolutely carrying out the mandatory exhibition and consultation phase, but we'll be complementing that with a number of other engagement activities. And depending on the nature of the provisions being proposed, it might be directly abutting landowners, it could be other community groups, it could be other public agencies. So that's the reference to as needed. It points to, it depends on what the nature of those provisions are that are being proposed. Thank you, Mayor Clark.
Thank you. Councillor Hood, more questions?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, and thanks, Mr. Torres, for that answer. My second question is on road safety initiatives. This is BGT 26.10. I'm wondering what the factors are that are causing the delays, and are they external to council? And the second part of that question is, officers indicate that there may be completion of some of these projects around September, October this year. Are they confident that September, October is a reasonable time frame for completion of road safety initiatives?
Thanks for your question there. So this is a funding through the state government's a new branch of funding. And so the timing was, I suppose, put into our financial year and budget for June. The timing that's been agreed to by state government in terms of delivery is by that October. We're confident in terms of that work. There's already there's 6 projects that form part of that, nearly $2 million, or bit over $2 million worth of works. Some of that work is already out to tender. A number of projects are also about to go to tender. So there's been a fair bit of backwards and forwards, because it's actually work that the Department of Transport and Planning need to sign off. But we've got as much of the external work sign-off planning now behind us. Effectively now it is just get contractors and get the work done. So we're as confident as we can be, knowing that. We will need to see what the market says, what contractors are availability, but we'll keep everyone updated around that.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Councillor Hood.
Yep, thanks, Mr. Thomas. Yeah, my third and final question goes to BGT 26.11 and 0.12, where there are 2 service reviews being undertaken in the operational arm of council and the Parks and Gardens area. And as we should be aware, it's fairly pressing and urgent that council does identify some operational cost savings, some efficiencies. Given the status of those 2 reviews, can it be assumed that they may well identify some savings that we can factor into the 26-27 budget, given that we're very soon getting into compiling that budget?
So through you, probably premature to assume savings in terms of that. A service review doesn't necessarily mean savings. So councillors will be obviously aware and made decisions around the budget for 25-26, with significant reduction of about $2.6 million to operational costs. 2 of the major areas and part of our major expenditure being the outdoor operations area and Parks and Gardens had a very light touch. And then council have funded the projects you referred to in terms of doing the service reviews. That service reviews, given the size of them, is really significant. We will have a lot of work once officers have prepared that in terms of conversations with councillors. As I said, there might be reasons where we actually want to increase the level of services. And of course, that needs to be considered in terms of our financial position. There might be opportunities for how we do services differently, and there certainly might be opportunities for service reductions. But given the significant impact that both the parks area and the operations will have on, there will be a number of councillors' briefings required, and likely, depending on the changes implemented or considered, community engagement during 26-27. So the plan was, and it continues to be, in terms of development of those service reviews internally during this financial year. Councillors to consider those reviews, any financial implications, positive or negative, during 26-27, and we would likely see any changes then made in the 27-28 budget.
Thank you, Councillor Hood. That answers your questions?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Councillors, any other questions? No? Would anyone like to speak in favour or against the motion? Okay, with that, I will put the motion to the floor. All those in favour, raise your hand.
Passed unanimously.
Thank you very much, councillors. Okay, we'll move on to our next item. 8 items of urgent business we've had none submitted. So we'll move on to item number 9, which is the councillor and CEO report. So we'll start off 9.1, the Mayor's report. I'd like to sort of just begin my report by firstly really acknowledging some of the amazing events that have been happening in March. And I think, of note, we have the Chill Out Festival, which has been an amazing event, and also the Clunes Booktown. And I want to just extend a really big thanks to the amazing volunteers who put in so much time to add so much to our local environment, to our local community, enriching so many different things, bringing in visitors, and making it a destination place too. So I think, really, I want to really acknowledge their wonderful work. I'd also like to just take a moment to acknowledge some of our amazing recipients of the International Women's Day Awards. I'd like to Pauline Hawker, Kate Smith, Erica Higgins, and of course Betty Ray posthumously as well. It was a fantastic event in Creswick Town Hall, and it really is, I think, a testament to the work of so many in our community who work tirelessly doing what they do, and in doing so set an amazing example. I'd like to acknowledge all the many events that councillors and council and community have been organised. I'm sure that my fellow councillors will discuss these, and also the ongoing advocacy work, particularly around safety and protection of officers and councillors, which I'll be doing a lot of work in that space and will continue to do so. And I think, because I think it's important to really acknowledge that online social attacks, virtual attacks, are in many ways more damaging than physical attacks. And I think it's something we all need, and this is a sector issue and something that's an emerging trend. And I think we all need to be mindful of that for everyone's health, safety and well-being. I would also like to look again, so I'd like to take a moment just to look ahead for a moment. And I'd like to, I think, as Councillor Drylee, alluded to earlier, we are living in some very challenging times. Fuel prices going up, costs are going up right across the board, and Council has a real role to work with community on how we actually, adjust and improve that as best as we possibly can. And we'll be discussing this over the next couple of months, and I am excited about that, and also about to address some of the issues as raised by some councillors tonight, particularly how we work with community and how we develop group and community-based solutions. So that's my report, councillors. So with that, we'll now move to item 9.2, councillor reports. Councillor Drylee, I'd like to provide your report, please.
Thank you, Mayor. This month I keep returning to two words: defiance and hope. I first felt that the opening night of the Clunes Booktown Festival, now in its 20th year, where defiance and hope was the theme. In a time of war, instability and division, there was something powerful about a regional town gathering around books, ideas, conversation and culture. I also had the pleasure of meeting Greens founder Bob Brown, whose latest book happens to be called Defiance. Because books matter, and so do the arts more broadly. They're not optional extras. They help us make meaning, build empathy, challenge power and imagine better, more hopeful futures. And at a time when arts and education are both under pressure, that matters even more. That thread continued through to the International Women's Day event in Creswick I attended. I too want to acknowledge the women who were inducted and the women who spoke so honestly and powerfully on the night. Their stories did more than inspire. They reminded us that equality, safety and dignity are still unevenly distributed, and that progress takes courage, solidarity and people willing to speak defiantly about violence and discrimination. I saw the same spirit at Chill Out in Daylesford, where I joined the parade and opening celebration. This year's theme, Planet Love, felt especially resonant. At a time when we're seeing this rising division, racism and hostility to difference, Chill Out joyfully and defiantly celebrates diversity, inclusion, pride and belonging. I also attended a community session led by the Bald Hills Creswick Landcare Group on conserving the critically endangered Yarra gum. It was heartening to see local people, scientists and First Nations voices coming together around caring country. In the face of climate disruption and habitat loss, that too is an act of defiance at a very ground level. I also attended a climate risk webinar through the MAV and the launch of Their Future is Local campaign. And I was reminded that councils are carrying even more risk, more expectation and more complexity with mounting financial pressure. The MAV framework argues that change grounded in trust, leadership, resilient and connected communities, regenerative shared prosperity and a stronger future for local government while also pushing practical priorities for regional communities, including safer roads and local transport connections. For me, this is the story of the month: defiance and hope living in books and the arts, in women speaking truth, in queer pride, in care for country, and in communities refusing fear and division. In Hepburn, we push the other way by strengthening belonging, backing inclusion, and celebrating the creative, resilient and generous community spirit that we have seen on show across our shire this month.
30 seconds.
That's it.
Off timing. Thank you very much, Councillor Drowley. Councillor Hewitt.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you, councillors, you'll note that I was an apology at the last council meeting due to family circumstances. I became grandmother of twins.
Congratulations.
Thank you. But I would like to comment on what I did last month, attending the upgrading of the aged care and acute ward at Creswick Health. That project started, I was at the turning of the sod back in 2018 when it was still under Hepburn Health. And I just want to point out the length of time that it's taken for a project like that to come to fruition. There's a lot of work involved in planning, in accessing funding, and the lesson, but it's finally worthwhile. And that's, I think, a lesson also for council and council projects. Like my colleagues, I attended International Women's Day and was impressed with the 4 women that we added to our honour roll for their contribution to community life. Like my colleagues, I also attended the Chill Out Parade, but I went to Rhyme Time at the library on the Saturday morning, organised by our Hepburn librarians and with Frock Hudson in attendance. And it's such a wonderful event to see young children and their parents from rainbow families, but also from non-rainbow families, hearing and reading about diversity and inclusion and being presented with stories that inculcate or demonstrate values that we would want all our children to have, particularly in not just particularly, but in a shire that values inclusion and diversity. This morning, councillors, I met with Steve McPhail, the principal of the Daylesford Secondary College. It's just been announced that Bolan has now been rezoned to attendance at Daylesford Secondary. But more importantly, I met with Mr. McPhail because he was telling me that the school has been approved to develop a specific program for neurodiverse adolescents, which will start in 2027. And I think, again, that's a wonderful inclusion and a newer service that will be provided in Hepburnshire for those children, adolescents who are neurodiverse with things, conditions like ADHD and autism, and they're hoping to start, or they're planning to start, this in 2027 with 20 students. So that's an exciting development that I'm interested in telling you about and looking at how council can be of assistance in that project.
Great. Thank you very much, Councillor Hewitt. Councillor Hockey.
Mayor, my report appears in the agenda, so I won't belabour people with it here. Only just to mention that Booktown was certainly an act of defiance. There was a lot of worry that folk wouldn't pay for petrol, but in fact the numbers were terrific. So yeah, really good turnout, really impressive. And again, thanks to the volunteers and the committee too, and even the staff. I'm sure they went above and beyond.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Councillor Hockey. Councillor Hood.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, like my colleagues, I certainly consider the highlight of the past month being the induction of very worthy recipients into the Heather Mutimer Honour Roll. Very diverse in their respective backgrounds and their significant contributions to the communities across the Shire, and I thought that was a great gesture to have those women inducted into the honour roll, and I found that to be the highlight of the past month. Thank you.
Thank you very much, councillor Hood. And councillor Cornish.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to speak on the impact of the environment and other factors on Yarra Gums, especially in the Creswick area. I attended a forum of Councillor Pat Hockey and Dryly were there as well, and that was in Creswick with the Landcare group. There was quite a lot of people there, about 100 people attended, and it was all about the endangered Yarra Gums. And the Landcare group believes that Creswick is situated in a very special part of Victoria, where the central uplands meets the Victorian volcanic plains, and two very different bioregions come together around Creswick, and much of it is now fragmented and under threat. Our area faces constant pressures from exotic grasses, gorse, blackberries, foxes and rabbits, land clearing and development. And recently, the Landcare group advocated at the WRL IAC to improve impacts on our endangered species. That was a really good forum. So I also attended, I must say there was also a panel discussion that afternoon as well, and that was informative. The Glen Lyon Recreation Reserve, or PAG group, Project Advisory Group, discussion on the renovation of the existing pavilion. So this was just an informal gathering of the members of that PAG group discussing the specifics about the renovation of that pavilion. And it was quite good because these people know every inch of that pavilion, Mayor. They really do, and they take pride in it, and I'm very happy as they are, and this council, that we're retaining that pavilion. It's extremely important heritage building. The International Women's Day, I was fortunate to MC that event. That was a great night, and I acknowledge the 4 recipients. They were very worthy of their awards. The opening of Chill Out, most of us were there for the opening. It was very loud, couldn't even hear each other.
Yes,
it was a really good night. I don't like it when I can't be heard.
You'll be in my shoes.
Also attended the MAB Mayor's Institute Forum in Nicholson Street there
30 seconds.
in East Melbourne, which the main focus was leading healthy communities. It was a mayoral leadership forum. And Clunes Booktown, what a night that was. Okay, Bob Brown was there. I'll just add also Jane Sullivan, I think it is, author, ABC, been on radio. She was on my table. I didn't even know who they were on my table. I only had 2 women and they were both authors. So it was really interesting to listen to her. That was a terrific event. I really thoroughly enjoyed that. Anyway, I must say 15,000 people attended Booktown, and there are over 100 volunteers for that event, which is really phenomenal.
Thank you very much, Councillor Caution. Thank you, councillors. I would just like to basically move that council notes the mayor and councillors' reports and accepts them. So I'd like to put that motion.
Yes.
Councillor Hockey, second. Seconded. All those against, put those in favour.
Declared.
Thank you. Thank you very much. 9.3 Chief Executive's report. Mr. Thomas.
Thank you, Mayor. Report 3 things to touch on. Big thanks to Ron Torres, who is in the acting seat for a couple of weeks while I took 2 weeks of planned annual leave. So it's nice to have a rest and refresh and have really great resource and trust in the staff that you've got here. Really encourage that community groups across Hepburn-Shire take advantage of our open community grants program. We've been able over a number of years to be able to support a number of related community groups and community projects. That funding is available and encourage community to look at that. It closes on the 15th of May, but I encourage you not to leave it to the last minute to get in so that you can also chat with officers around making sure it's a high quality submission. And last but not least, just a massive thank you to To staff and councillors, you only need to hear the councillors' reports from tonight. So no matter how tough external events might be on staff and community, a great ability to deliver fantastic outcomes for our community. So appreciate that.
Thank you very much, councillors. Would someone like to put the motion to note and receive the CEO's report? Thank you, Councillor Hockey. Councillor seconded, Councillor Coyce. All those in favour?
Declared unanimously.
Thank you very much. All right, well, item number 10, to close the meeting. So I'd like to thank community. Thank you for attending. Councillors, thank you for attending. Officers, thank you for attending. With that, I will formally close our 23rd of March 2026 meeting closed.
It's 7 p.m. So
Thank you very much. Thank you
Stop
all.
live streaming now.